Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be talking about whether I think Kamala Harris or Donald Trump are going to win the 2024 US general election. I believe Kamala Harris is going to win. There are a few reasons for that. First one is general economic trends, putting aside all the current event stuff, all the wacky stuff that goes on. Believe it or not, beyond all that stuff, a lot of what dictates the way people vote is just short to medium term economic success. Kind of a disheartening thing. A lot of times it doesn't really matter what reprehensible stuff certain candidate has said. Obviously in that situation it's Trump saying reprehensible stuff. If the economy in America is doing relatively badly, I think the thing that the guy who did the 13 keys, whatever that guy's name is, he said 9 months. 9 months is the key window before the election. If it's not doing well, that really messes up your chances. And the economy in America, relative to how it's been doing the past few years, is doing pretty well. They've got inflation down. Inflation now is, in a lot of places, well, actually I'm not sure because of another thing. They just slashed interest rates in America. I predicted this was going to happen a couple of months ago, but for a reason that I did disagree with, I don't know. But I guess that means why I disagree with it. But they didn't cut interest rates earlier. But yeah, inflation is down. I think it was below 2% at certain points in certain places, but now it'll probably go back up above 2% because they've cut interest rates. Low interest rates make it easier to buy a home, basically, and it helps the economy. But that's for another video about how cutting interest rates helps the economy. But the big figures are good. Inflation, interest rates, unemployment is relatively low compared to how it has been. And obviously we all know aftermath of COVID and the gas prices caused by Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. It's been a bit rough, so I guess just lucky for the Democrats that they're just naturally sort of recovering from this. Obviously there are a couple of things that were done under the Biden administration that helped quite a bit. The Inflation Reduction Act was passed in 2021. It was a big package to, as I remember it, stimulate the American economy with like subsidies, a lot of investment, which would then, apparently the economic activity would offset the extra capital that was being introduced into the system. You would have thought that would create more inflation because you're spending more money, but it was done in a specific proportional way where it was genuinely helping a lot of communities, a lot of small businesses, as well as obviously big, the Democrats, but a lot of small businesses as well. A lot of communities were actually kind of helped by the Inflation Reduction Act, and there you go. It reduced the inflation. It worked in a timely manner. They do think it was caused by that, but yeah, that and just natural economic recovery. Also, it seems that Harris's lead in polls is widening over Trump. Right now, according to 538, that is, they're a polling aggregator. They say that she's 2.8 points ahead of Trump right now in the polls. But the thing is, they apply a lot of stuff to their polling. It runs off an algorithm. They have to weight a lot of stuff. They take a lot of stuff into account. It's not just like a straight average or whatever. And that means that there's a lot of discussion with stuff like this around how much they're emphasizing certain things. Should they be emphasizing that as much? Maybe they should emphasize that a bit less. And one thing that happened is that in polling in America, there's a phenomenon called a convention bounce, where after the national convention of a party, so Republican or Democrat, when they officially nominate the candidate, Kamala was basically the candidate before that, but she was officially made the Democratic candidate at the convention. I believe that was the start of August, like 10th, 15th of August, around there. And yeah, obviously she got made the candidate. And the thing is, there's a weird thing with American voters where after the convention, there'll be a little bounce where 0.5 going up to 1% will go up and will switch to say they're going to vote for that candidate. And then 2 weeks later, basically all of them go back. It's just a little thing. There's no lasting effect, well, almost no lasting effect of the conventions, and it's hard to tell anyway. But from what they can tell, any bump that candidates get after the convention is just like median voters like getting their attention trapped. It catches their attention and then they just change their mind or something. It's very fickle. American voters are very fickle. But recently, 538 and a lot of other pollsters have been applying a convention bounce adjustment to their polls, where Kamala's results have been shifted down by 0.5, going on potentially up to a point, to order to try and account for that. But obviously, it's a very random world and it's only a little thing. They're not even sure they're not even sure to the extent that it affects things. It could just be a coincidence, but because it's not a reliable thing that you can rely on a certain percentage every election, there's going to be this much convention bounce, and they know exactly how much to dial it back by, because it's not an exact science. Some people have been saying, including me, that the bounce has been off. Well, the bounce adjustment has been off, and actually there hasn't been a very big convention bounce, because there's a couple of reasons. I guess in general this is just an unprecedented election. Obviously she's the new candidate, she's not the incumbent, and I think Kamala sort of had her convention about a month before the actual convention, because I'm trying to think, bloody hell, when did it seems like ancient history, but when I was in this forest or whatever talking about Joe Biden, Joe Biden going into the US election, thank you very much, I'm not talking about that anymore. But yeah, I believe that terrible debate was late June. I think she became the candidate late July, either very early August or late July. Kamala became the practical candidate. So that was what, a month or less than a month before the convention. So what difference does the convention really make? You could argue for an incumbent, you know, they get settled in, everyone gets used to seeing their face, everyone gets used to hearing about them in the news, and then the convention comes and they sort of reintroduce themselves, you know. But Kamala was already in that phase, and kind of still is in that phase of introducing herself. And yes, she's the VP, but who gives a fuck about the VP? So people think, for one reason or another, that may be one of the reasons, because of this being an unprecedented election, you can't treat Kamala like past candidates, and the adjustment may be off. So it's starting to wear off now, hence her polling is going up right now, because after 2-3 weeks they start to ease off. And in the past week or so, she's been going for a pretty unexpected lead of like 2 points or something, and she's hitting up 3, more like that, going on 4 now. And another thing is that you got to think about, never get disheartened if you see these polls or whatever. If you look at these polling averages and you see like fucking, because I'm not making this for like conservatives or whatever, like, you know, I'm just gonna say like Trump is a fucking psycho. People, and a lot of people are very surprised that like, oh, this thing says she's 2.2 points ahead, 2.2 percentage points ahead of fucking Donald Trump. Like, yeah, like, okay, yeah, obviously she's supporting a genocide, but still, like, she's not going to end democracy in America. She doesn't have an open public plan to end democracy in America. Project 2025, look it up, read about it. And it's like, yeah, if you want to stop the Israeli genocide of Palestine, I mean, which government do you want to do it under? Do you want to do it in a democracy where, like, okay, because people see how hard it is already, the amount of protests, the amount of resistance, the amount of people speaking up, all those student protests, and very, very little change in the US's policy about this genocide. So it's already so hard in a democracy. What you think you're going to be able to stop the Palestinian genocide in a fascist dictatorship? What? So people are getting very disheartened about the fact that she seems to be not that much ahead. But with a lot of these aggregators, especially 538, a lot of these pollsters are very, very trepidatious. They're very slow. It takes them a long time to make decisions. They're liberals. So 538 specifically, I listen to their podcast sometimes, they've said their average only really starts taking changes in polling into account when they've been displayed, and that behavior has been displayed in the polling for 2 going on 3 weeks consistently. So the thing is, in the past like week or 2, like mainly this past week, Kamala has been way ahead in polls. She's been booming. Like a lot of polls are showing her like 4, 5, 6, 7 points ahead, which again isn't a lot, should be a lot more, but it's an American election. Remember, this is an American election. Like 6 points ahead, because right, the average of like the past 10 polls that I've seen, this might find this interesting. I did a little average past 20 polls. This was 2 days ago I did this, maybe yesterday, and her average was 4.65 percentage points above Trump. That was the last 20, and particularly in the last week, the last few days, last 10 polls, her average has been something like 5, 6 points ahead of Trump. So she's not just pipping out ahead of Trump. When you hear 2%, it's like, oh, that could be a fucking rounding error. Well, it couldn't, because it's an aggregate, it's not a single poll, but you know what I mean. Like, but the thing is, hold on. If you're looking at the polls despairing and you're a political person, hold on, don't despair yet. A lot of these pollsters, they want to see, even if they're reliable polls, even if there's several reliable nationwide polls in a row, they want to see 2 full weeks, 3 full weeks of that being the average before that is fully reflected in their aggregate. So I don't know what that's going to do to the PR, because here's the thing with modern elections, there seems to be a bit of a feedback loop. Back in the day, it was entirely descriptive. Pollsters would look from the outside and they talk about what's happening, and then they give the poll of how likely they think that is. But we've never been at a point where polling is more of a talking point like than it is right now. So I wonder what that's going to do when it feeds back and it becomes part of the narrative, where in about a week, Kamala is, I'm just going to make this claim, like full on, no maybe, no probably, she's going to be more than 3 points ahead of Trump. And then in 2 weeks, I would not be surprised whatsoever. I really wouldn't be surprised if the average would put, and a lot of reliable aggregators put her 4 points or more above Trump. She is going to jet off like a rocket in these next few weeks. And it's going to be exacerbated by a lot of stuff that hasn't been borne out in polling yet. The incitement of violence against Haitians in Ohio, because of Trump and JD Vance knowingly, repeatedly, again and again lying about them kidnapping people's dogs and eating them, and cats. There's been big backlash to that in Trump. I don't know what's happened to his PR team. He used to have good PR back in 2016. He doesn't now. The way to respond to that, when you're losing people and people don't buy it, which even like a lot of less crazy Republicans don't buy that, is not to just keep repeating it. He keeps saying it. It keeps getting him in more trouble. All indications say that it keeps making him less and less popular. He's just kind of coming apart at the seams. The economy is doing better in America, and she's generally just not as much of a psycho as Trump. I was going to say she's not a psycho, but she's supporting the Palestinian genocide. But yeah, she's less of a psycho than Trump. So I do quite firmly believe, that's my analysis at this point, this day. What day is it? The 20th? 19th, maybe? But this day, that's my analysis. I'm pretty confident that Kamala's going to win. I'd say 80%, 85%. That's a lot better than Joe. Remember I was saying 55% chance Joe Biden's going to win. Bloody hell, at one point it was 50-50. But yeah, 80%, 85% that Kamala Harris is going to win, and democracy isn't going to be actually like tried to be overthrown in America. So I mean, that's a bit of good news. My first post-Kamala election analysis video. So yeah, a slightly more positive, very slightly more positive. But yeah, thanks for watching. If you made it this far, if you survived, try and have a good one. I'll see you. Bye bye.